Good morning. Welcome to Walking Boxing. It is Friday, November 28th, 2025. And what a day we have here in the Masson Range. You can see behind me there, barely a cloud in the sky. Beautiful sunny morning. It's about 7:30, I think, at the moment. And finally, the weather has decided to sort of come out 2 days before the end of spring and about when we're going to enter into summer. Not overly great news going forward though, because I think over the next few days after today, which should be good, apparently it's going to be in the low 20s. I think it's going to drop down to as low as 12 over the next few days. But good news is by this time next week, apparently, according to the BOM or whatever they're called these days, the Bureau of Meteorology, it's going to be mid-20s here in the Masson Range. So looking forward to that anyway. But it's like up and down, just like a yo-yo at the moment. So anyway, we'll move on. Let's go to on this day. Firstly, actually on this day, I would like to go back to the year 2004, where my oldest son was born. It's his 21st birthday today. So happy birthday to him. Depp is his name. And he's grown into quite the young man. Well, that's all I can say. Of course, I'm a little bit prejudiced. He's my son, but my oldest son, and 21 today, and I'm really proud of what he's done so far, and hopefully what he'll do in the future. So happy birthday to Depp. All right, let's go back to 1982. Larry Holmes with a 15-round decision over Randall Tex Cobb. And if you're not familiar with Randall Tex Cobb, he was in a lot of movies back in the day. My favourite movie with him in it is Raising Arizona. Raising Arizona with Nicolas Cage back, I think it was, I can't remember what year, I was in the 90s sometime, but you haven't seen it, check it out. What's her name? Holly, someone in it that is his wife in it, but Nicolas Cage, Randall Tex Cobb, plays the outlaw on a bike, motorbike that is, and is tracking down Nicolas Cage. It's a classic. But this was on this day, 1982. He lost for the World Heavyweight Championship against Larry Holmes, who I think might have been coming off the win over Cooney back in June. I'm not sure whether he'd had another fight in the meantime, but anyway, that was on this day. I'm not sure where it was. Actually, an interesting thing about this fight was that we all know, I think, the commentator Howard Cosell, probably the most famous commentator of all time. Maybe Colonel Bob Sheridan will give him a run in history. But he actually retired from commentary after this fight because he thought the fight was so one-sided. Even though Tex Cobb actually survived the 15 rounds, he quit out of protest. He would come back, of course, but quit out of protest after this fight. 1988, Daniel Zaragoza, the former Jeff Fennick victim, and I think 2 or 3-time world champion, knocked out Valerio Natti in 5 rounds for the world super bantamweight title. And in 2011, Saul Canelo Alvarez with a 5th-round knockout of Kermit Kintron. That was for the world super welterweight title. And I think it was in Mexico City. Yeah, I just want to see where that Holmes and Cobb fight was. I'm pretty sure it would have been Las Vegas. Actually, it doesn't say. Anyway, and then also on this day in 2015, a massive upset. Well, it seemed a massive upset at the time. Doesn't seem so much these days. But Tyson Fury won the world heavyweight title with a 12-round decision over Vladimir Klitschko. I think it was Vladimir, wasn't it? I think it was. Wasn't Vitali, was it? Jeez, where are we? Vladimir. I thought it was Vladimir. Of course it was Vladimir. Yes, that was I think that fight was in Germany. So yeah, on this day, 2015. And it's interesting with Tyson Fury because after this fight, surprisingly, this great achievement, his career pretty much spiraled out of control after this. And in one of the best comeback stories of all time, he got his life back on track. He'd had obviously some mental health problems and a lot of other issues outside the ring. Tyson Fury, substance abuse problems, all that sort of stuff, and got himself back off the canvas, if you will, excuse the pun, and ended up going to those massive fights with Deontay Wilder and proving what I'm not going to to say great fighter because I don't think he is or was a great fighter, depending on whether he comes back or not, of course. I think he was just a very, very good fighter, Tyson Fury, and probably got the most out of himself. I mean, he doesn't look anything like a fighter, does he? Looks like I don't want to be mean to him. He looks a big, sort of fat, sort of bald, well, gypsy, doesn't he? So, but he can fight, and one of my favourite fighters out there, and I think we need characters like him in the sport. So I really do hope he comes back, actually, because I think the sport needs him, and especially when you've got fasters like Anthony Joshua fighting Jake Paul when it should have been Tyson Fury. We've got some issues in the sport, haven't we? But let's hope he comes back. As I said, a real character, and I think the sport will miss him. It's far too early for him to retire. I get it that he's, 35, 36, whatever he might be. Is he that old? Maybe not. But either way, he's worth probably a couple of $100 million, so I get it. Boxing's a pretty dangerous sport, and he likes the time with the family and everything else he gets up to, so we will see. But that's what happened on this day. Thanks firstly to everyone yesterday with all the comments and everything about my first video back from being overseas, and sort of touched on Tim Tszyu and Jai Pattaya mainly, and I got a lot of comments and messages and all that sort of stuff about it, and surprisingly most people agreed. And if you didn't see it, go back and check it out. But what I sort of did say, I'll just quickly recap. It's probably more so with Jai Pattaya. I just said to everyone, don't get too bent out of shape about what's happening with Zurdo Ramirez fighting David Benavidez. It's just a business decision. Contrary to what a lot of boxing fans think, Jai overseas unfortunately isn't a big name over there, and for business reasons, Ramirez has decided to go for Benavidez. The biggest fight, it's probably as risky as Jai. I know we all tend to put Jai up on a pedestal, and probably quite rightly so. But I don't think we should be confusing that with being probably a better fighter or more dangerous fighter than Benavidez. The difference is that Benavidez represents a much bigger payday and status and all that sort of stuff. He doesn't represent a belt. But as I said yesterday, I just don't think that means that much to Ramirez these days about unifying. I just think he wants the biggest fights at the biggest times and everything else, and Benavidez is going to go up. And of course, Benavidez then said he would go back down to 175, and again, just a business decision. So thanks for everyone that did comment. As I said, probably 99% of people did agree with me, but sometimes it just doesn't work out the way it should. And I totally, again, understand why Ramirez and Benavidez have made the decisions they have, and who knows what might happen with Benavidez if he goes up and beats Ramirez and wins those belts, and say Bivol and Beterbiev decide they're going to fight each other or whatever it might be. Beterbiev might retire and Bivol might fight someone else, whatever, I don't know. But maybe what might happen is that he might reconsider and then fight Jai. A lot of water to go on the bridge anyway, but we'll see what happens with that one. As far as Tim goes, look, I think everyone sort of universally agreed that the training looks very impressive at the moment. Excited about to see how he goes in a couple of weeks' time against Velasquez. But I think, like me, a lot of people are reserving judgment as far as where he's at, and probably promising not to get ahead of themselves if he does have a very impressive win. I said yesterday, and I'm pretty sure Pedro Diaz will not get ahead of himself. He will see it for what it is, and probably has his eyes on another couple of fights, probably in the first half of 2026, and look to step him up after that. But the one thing I will say about Tim at the moment, he does look really happy. I think yesterday he put a post up on his social media with his team or teams, because he's got the in-ring team and outside team. And so I think it was Mike Altamura, Jeff Fennick, Matt Rose, and Darcy Ellis in the off-field team or outer ring team, whatever you might want to call it. And the in-ring team, who, apart from Pedro Diaz, I wasn't really familiar with a lot of those guys in the photo. But again, he looks really happy and looks ready to go and looks in really good condition as well. So that's probably the main thing. So again, looking forward to seeing how he goes on December 17th. Another Aussie that sits sort of in the news in the boxing world at the moment is Andrew Moloney. So I did see a post that I think Tony Tolge might have been asked about whether Andrew would be stepping aside for Bam Rodriguez to fight the winner of Willibaldo Garcia and Teraji. Kenshiro Teraji. All right, I'll spit it out eventually. Whether he steps aside for the winner of that fight to fight Bam Rodriguez, and Tony Told said absolutely not. They will not be stepping aside. They are the mandatory challenger. They've been told there will be no unification or step aside or anything like that. He will be fighting him in the first half of 2026. What this has done, though, is probably forced the hand a little bit of Team Bam, because Robert Garcia actually replied as well and said that if that does happen and Andrew doesn't step aside, that they will then go to 118 and just forego the opportunity to unify the 118-pound title. So it would be a little bit of a shame. When you've got champions who are actively seeking to unify the belts, it's a shame when they don't get the opportunity and they've got to make alternative arrangements to fight someone else. Now, this obviously is good for Andy because he gets a shot at the IBF belt, but not so good for Bam. But look, it is what it is. A lot of mixed sort of comments about the status, whether Andrew should get his shot or not. Look, end of the day, he's a number one challenger. I would think at his age and his stage of his career, I would be doing exactly the same thing. And even though it'd be great to see Bam fight the winner of the other unification fight for all 4 belts, at 34 years of age, going on 35, I don't think you should be taking any risks and taking step-aside money and biding your time. Now, if he was 10 years younger, he might say, all right, well, maybe I'll just step aside and let Bam fight the winner of the other unification match, and then I will fight the winner of that. But all sorts of things can happen. There could be, he would need another tune-up fight. Anything can happen in that. He could get hurt, he could get cut, he could get beat. Father Time might catch up with him. And all for probably a really little or a small payday and a lot of risk involved in it. So I sort of get at his age, he'll be thinking, hey, I feel you, Bam, but that's not my problem. I'm the number one challenger, and I'm gonna hold my ground and I'm gonna demand my shot. So I think that will happen. If Bam goes up, it's not the end of the world. I mean, there's plenty of obviously great fights at 118. It's probably a year ahead of schedule for him, you would think, about moving up. But I think that when he gets to 118, there's going to be some ripper fights there for him potentially. So, but it is what it is. But so Andrew in line for that. The other, I did see as well, the cards are talking about for early in the year. I think there's a January, it might be late January and late February. And it still looks like Pacquiao and Ramiro might fight. I think they're still awaiting the WBA to confirm that they will allow the fight to happen, because Eddie Hearn pushing the, who is the challenger? I can't remember. Is he a Chechnyan or Russian? I think he is. I can't remember anyway. But whoever is the number one challenger for the WBA, they're pushing for him, even though Pacquiao wants to fight Barrios for that belt. Now, the word is if that does actually go ahead in late January, that looks like Sebastian Fundora and Keith Thurman will be the main support for that, which will be a ripper card. Imagine that, Fundora, Thurman and Pacquiao, Barrios. But on the flip side, I think on the late February card, Mario Barrios will defend the WBC welterweight title against Ryan Garcia. Now, there's also word that they were hoping that maybe Devin Haney could fight Ramiro on the undercard of that, and then of course the 2 winners would fight after that. So complicated at the moment for Ramiro. I've got a feeling Eddie Hearn will really push for his fighter to get the mandatory with Ramiro. Promoters like Eddie Hearn don't muck around as far as the fighters goes, unless maybe he gets a significant step aside payday, which I think he's already had maybe before. I'm not sure, but so potentially we could have a couple of ripper fights. And Raul Ramiro, who looked on the scrap heap after getting demolished by Pitbull Cruz about 18 months ago, actually on the same card as Tim's fight with Sebastian Fundora, the first fight. All of a sudden, he's the man in demand. He's fought Garcia, and now he could either fight Pacquiao or the winner of Barrios and Ryan again, so Ryan Garcia. So that's what's happening with that. Now, I didn't... Last weekend, I did go over quickly the Benavidez and Yard card in Riyadh. But one thing I think was pretty comprehensive as far as the Benavidez win over Yard goes. I think that was pretty much cut and dry as far as everyone's opinions of that. I thought, and like a lot of people, that Benavidez is far too big, too strong. Yard, come here, man. Come here, buddy. Was disappointing, but then again, Benavidez was very, very impressive. So I think everyone was universal in that. I think the same as Bam over Martinez as well. I think the one thing about Bam's performance over Martinez, I think a lot of people were surprised at how, well, how easy Bam Rodriguez made it look, because I think a lot of people thought that Martinez might give a lot better account of himself, but I did say on the night that I thought Bam barely got out of second gear. The Noakes and Mason fight was a ripper, but the one that surprised me the most, not the result, but I suppose the feedback after the fight. This is Devin Haney beating Brian Norman Jr. I've just been really staggered, if I've got to say, that still the pylon of Devin Haney. Now, so many fans and reporters and even Norman himself, and we saw Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn rip him to shreds after the fight in the commentary or the interview that they did. I thought that that was probably the best I've seen Devin Haney look probably since he fought Lomachenko at lightweight. I was really impressed with his performance, and I get that there was some clinching and holding, but I don't think it was anything more than what you get in a lot of other fights. It's done strategically. I don't think he was doing it because he was afraid. This seemed to be the narrative from a lot of people, is that, the same old Devin, he's afraid to fight, afraid to get hit, afraid to engage. Well, I must have been watching a different fight, because I know there were probably maybe instances in the fight where that might have happened, but again, no different to a lot of other fights that you see. But I was just really impressed by the way he stood his ground and actually outfought Brian Norman. Now, Brian Norman Jr. and his dad afterwards sort of had the excuses, how are we supposed to win when all he did was run and clinch and hold? Well, that's not the fight I was watching. I saw that Brian Norman was completely dominated by Devin Haney, whether he was boxing him or fighting him. Especially those first few rounds where he really stood his ground and obviously decked Brian Norman. So I'm not sure what else Devin Haney could have done. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest Devin Haney fan by a country mile. I don't sort of like a lot of his, and his dad, by the way, the way they sort of comment on a lot of things. Now, I have met Devin Haney before at the Top Rank Gym, but just a quick g'day and a photo. Have quickly met his dad when they were in Australia as well, but very, very quickly. But by all accounts, both of them are really, really good guys. But either way, I've never been a massive fan of Devin by his outside persona, plus in the ring, not that entertaining for me. But as I said, I was converted a little bit like Shakur Stevenson when he fought William Cepeda. I thought it was a similar performance. I just thought he outfought the fighter, the puncher. And Brian Norman can blame clinching and holding and running as much as he likes, but I just thought he was outboxed in every department by a superior fighter. So I totally dismissed that. But I don't know what you guys out there think, but I was really, really impressed with Devin Haney. I thought that he stood his ground. He in my eyes, more than anything, he boxed smart. He did exactly what he had to do. He fought when he had to fight, and he boxed when he had to box. Now, isn't that the sign of an elite fighter? So I don't understand the pylon and the backlash of Devin Haney. And again, I'm not the biggest Devin Haney fan, but I've got to come to his defense on this occasion. I really think that it was a very, very impressive performance. I think he looked great at the weight. I think he looked stronger than Norman. I think he looked more powerful than Norman. And Norman, it's not really Devin Haney's fault that Brian Norman didn't turn up. Now, for all the posturing and the boasting and the talking it up that Brian Norman did in the lead up to it, and even not just him, but a lot of his fans and reporters and everyone else saying he was, in a position to beat Boots Ennis, if you can believe that. I just thought Devin Haney made the fight look very, very easy and exposed Brian Norman for being a pretty average fighter. Now, maybe, as I said, the fact that he had what looked like a broken nose in the second round, or whatever it was, when he got dropped, that would definitely upset his momentum and everything else. But the fact of the matter is that Devin Haney put on a masterclass and completely outboxed him and outpointed him. So anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. Anyway, I just again don't understand the criticism of Devin Haney. I mean, it's a little bit like the Floyd Mayweather syndrome as well, isn't it? Now, Floyd was always accused of that as well, but if you watch a lot of his fights, he didn't run. A lot of the times he stood in centre ring and dared them to come at him, and he would just counter them all night. So it's almost like this optical illusion with these guys. Now, maybe, as I said, Devin can be accused sometimes of clinching and holding, but I just see it as strategic, and he does it when he needs to do it, just like a lot of other fighters do as well. So again, I'm not sure what you guys think, but that's the way I see it anyway. And as I said, for the rest of the card, Abdullah Mason, I think he probably needs to maybe have a couple of soft defences. I think the Noakes fight showed that maybe good enough to be a world champion, obviously, but still needs a little bit of work and a little bit of polish put on his performance as well. So, but again, a great card. We've got a couple of good cards coming up, of course. We've got the Jai Pataya card this weekend. Can't wait for that. We've also got the Japanese card in Riyadh as well at the end of the month as well, and of course Tim Zoo's card on the 17th of December. So still plenty to look forward to. I tell you what, though, it's not cheap being a boxing fan these days, is it? Because it seems every week or every second week there's a pay-per-view on that costs a fair bit of money. So guys, I think that's about it. Actually, one thing I was going to say before I left was the interesting to see that Jake Paul, of course, he's fighting Anthony Joshua. Jesus, what the hell was that? Bird swooping me. But it was interesting that apparently, and this was confirmed, that Jake Paul offered the fight to Terence Crawford, and he actually accepted. He accepted the fight. The only issue was that Jake Paul wanted to fight before the end of the year, and Terence Crawford wanted to put the fight off until a few months away. So we could have actually had Jake Paul and Terence Crawford, if you can believe that. And I thought the Joshua fight was hard to believe, but imagine if it had been Terence Crawford instead of Anthony Joshua. Amazing. But as I said, apparently Crawford agreed to the fight, but just didn't want to do it so quickly. He wanted a few months to get prepared for it and whatever else. Because don't forget, Bud only fights probably once every 12 to 18 months. So it would have been a quick turnaround for him. Even within 6 months, it would have been a quick one for him. So anyway, guys, that's probably going to do it. Tomorrow I might do the pound for pound. I was going to do it today, but I'll just leave it at that and maybe do it tomorrow. There's been a fair bit of movement with a lot of the fights. I haven't done it for a while, actually, I don't think. So I might do that tomorrow and give my current top 10 a couple of surprise additions and probably a couple of surprise omissions as well. So as I said, I'll do that tomorrow. So guys, anyway, hope you enjoy a beautiful Friday. Have a good one, and we'll catch you tomorrow.